Shari here today, and I am going to be showing you how to make this fun Halloween shaker card. So I am using the Booyah stamp set. These are some fun ghosts that you can dress up for Halloween. And I've already got my stamps in my mini Misty here, and I'm just going to be stamping on some Nina Solar White cardstock with some jet black ink because I'm going to do some Copic coloring on these images. And I'm going to ink these up twice so I get a nice good impression, and that is why I'm using my Misty tool. So I'm going to stamp these down once, and I'm going to add the faces after I have these stamped. And I'm just going to give them a second stamp just so I have a nice crisp black line. Now that I have these stamped out, I can add the little faces to my ghost here. So I'm adding a couple faces. I'm going to add the patch to the one in the middle because he's going to be a pirate. I'm going to stamp that first, and then I'm going to stamp his face afterwards because that will help me line up the smile a little better with the eye. And now that I've got those where I want them to be, I'm just going to close the lid and pick up those stamps. And now I know the placement is going to be perfect when I close the lid. So again, I'm inking those with the jet black ink. And then I will just stamp those down onto my little ghosts. Finally, I can stamp the last little face, and I lined it up so that that one eye would obviously be underneath the pirate's eye patch. And now I'm ready to color these guys. So I'm going to speed up my Copic coloring so that this video isn't too terribly long, but for white ghosts, I just like to outline them with a cool gray, a very light cool gray. And for this one on the right, I'm going in with a very pale green, and he's my Frankenstein ghost, so I'm just going to make him a green color, but I still wanted him to look pale like a ghost. So you can see I'm just pulling in a slightly darker green, and then I'm just going to kind of blend it out towards the center. I'm not doing a whole lot of shading on these pieces here. I just kind of want them to pop. So I've got my red hat, and I just added a little black detailing. I'm going to go in with some purples for my little witch's hat here. I am going to do a little shading on this around the band. And I've got a few accessories for all my little ghosts here. So my witch will have a broom, and my pirate will have that nice hook hand. And then my Frankenstein ghost has a goodie bag over there. So I'm just adding color to those pieces. Now for the hair here, I am going to do some shading. For the larger pieces, I think that it helps a little bit. So I'm just going in with a slightly darker green than the ghost is, and then I'm going to pull some dark greens up from the bottom. And I think this will, even though he's all green, give some nice contrast between the hair that goes on his head and his body. So I've got my dies that coordinate with these images here, and I'm just holding them down with a little bit of washi tape. And I'm just going to run that through my die cut machine and cut them all out at once. I'm adding a little bit of eyeshadow and blush to my witch here. And now I'm just going to assemble some of these pieces. I'm going to get these guys dressed. And I'm just using my glue tube and my tweezers to kind of hold these things in place and line them up perfectly. Especially these little pieces like the hook hand and the broom are very small. So my tweezers help a lot. And then I decided I needed to add in the little stitching detail to my Frankenstein. So I'm going to get some green jalapeno ink here and just add that to the bottom. Now I'm using a piece of pattern paper here, a 12 by 12 from Perfectly Plaid Rainbow. And I like this purple. I think it looks very Halloween-y. And I'm just going to use this to cover my card base. So I'm going to cut it at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm going to add some adhesive to the back side and just cover my card base with that whole piece of plaid. Now I'm going to cut the shaker part. So I'm using some watercolor wishes. I like this dark yellow, and this is going to be the back part of my star. So I'm just cutting that out with the outside in, the largest star, and then I'm going to use the frame that coordinates in the same size, and I'm going to cut a whole bunch of frames from black cardstock. So instead of using foam to create my shaker box this time, I'm going to stack all these frames and make the shaker outside of the box just out of a bunch of stacked cardstock. I feel like cardstock keeps its shape a lot better than foam, so I think it works really well. And then I'm also going to cut a frame out of some black glitter cardstock, and that will be the front. So now I'm going to go back in with that outside in stitch star that I used for the yellow piece and cut a piece of acetate. So that'll just be the front part of my shaker window. And I'm going to go ahead and put this glittery piece around the outside of that. Now when I glue to acetate, I like to use a dry adhesive runner versus a liquid glue. So what I have to use here today is a very thin adhesive runner. It's hard to see on the white, but you will see it later. And it just puts down a very thin line of adhesive, which is great for frames like this. So I'm just going to line that up with that acetate piece, and then the front of my shaker star is ready to go. So now I have to glue all these frames to the star base, and I am going to use liquid glue for this. It makes it easy to make sure all those frames are lined up, and it's really easy to just trace around that shape with the glue tube tip. So with that first one glued down, I'm just going to go back in with a glue, trace around the star shape, and I'm just going to stack all these die cuts together. I think I have 6 or 7 here. So just as many depending on how thick you want it to be, also depending on what you're going to put inside the shaker. You could also vary the colors of these and have a nice effect on the side of some stripes, but I just wanted to keep it all simple and black. Now for my top piece here, I've got them all stacked. I'm going back to that thin adhesive, and on the black you can see just how thin it is and how it fits on the frame really well. And this is because this is the top one and this is the one that acetate is going to stick to. I'm going ahead and putting the adhesive on before I put the contents into the shaker, just because I feel like it's easier to do that first than to put that on and you possibly shake those bits out and make a mess all over your desk. So I've got some Halloween mixed sequins here. These are from Buttons Galore and More 28 Lilac Lane design, and these just happen to be sitting on my desk, but you could use any combination of Halloween shakers that you have. These are just sequins. I have seen lots of mixes that have fun spiders and shapes in them as well. So once you get it as full as you want, depending on how much you want to shake and how much of the star you want, I just kind of make sure they're in a nice even layer so that there's not too many stacked up. And this way you're sure that the shaker pieces move around really well. So now I can put that last acetate piece that I put the glitter frame on, and I'll just stick it down to that adhesive that I already put around the frame. So now it's all a self-contained shaker star here. So I'm just going to put some liquid glue on the back, and I'm going to start to assemble my card. I'm going to center this up in the middle of my card, kind of towards the top a little bit because I'm going to be stamping a sentiment right along the bottom. And then I'm going to add my little ghost. The liquid glue tube works great gluing to that glitter paper. And now I've got the sentiment Happy Halloween. It is also from the Booyah stamp set. I'm just lining that up on a block. It's going to go right along the bottom just like this, and I'm going to stamp it in some black licorice ink. I forgot I had that little boo speech bubble there. I'm adding that with a glue dot since it's going to be stuck to the acetate, and that glue dot will hold it in place nicely. Now to finish it off, I use the little teeny tiny stars that are part of the Stitch Star frames die, and I cut out a whole bunch. You can see I have some kind of scattered on the card already, and I cut them out of the glitter cardstock to match the frame, and I'm just sort of scattering them around like embellishments. And then I will go back in with my glue tube and my tweezers and glue all those down once I have the placement that I like. And I think that just fills that extra space and gives some more interest to the card. And there is the finished card. So you can see all the shaker pieces move around nice in there. And I just think it's super fun and colorful, and I love those cute little ghosts. So here is another look at that finished card and a close-up. Thanks for watching. Have an amazing day. Bye.